Alright, let's get started. A little late tonight, but better late than never, I guess. Tonight I want to talk about adding noise to the surface. So a lot of these are kind of flat, and what will happen is when you have small details like this, they look good in zBrush, but when you tend to bake out the normal map, they kind of get lost in sort of the bake, because it does its best to pick up everything, but it doesn't always do 100%. And so what ends up happening is this will probably look pretty flat. It'll have some height variations in here, but all these sort of small little brush strokes in here probably won't come through really well. So we kind of want to add some extra noise to that, and I figured I'd show tonight how I go about doing that. So you can see this one on the left. I've already kind of done this one just to show as an example the difference between the two. So this is one that I had already done yesterday. I already added the cracks, but I've gone ahead and I've added in some noise here to kind of show the difference. So the way I do it is I'm going to select this one right next to it so we can see them kind of together. The first thing I do is I store a Morph Target, and what that does is that saves basically a snapshot of this model as it is right now. So whenever you click Store Empty, it's going to store the mesh as it is as soon as you click that. And that's good because noise tends to be a little destructive, and if the noise is too much or kind of ruins our model, we have our Morph Target that we can go back to and kind of merge between the two and get the look that we want. And I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. So now that we've stored our Morph Target, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to Surface. We're going to click the Noise button. Let's make sure we're actually looking at the face that's on the outside. And one thing with noise is you want a decent poly count whenever you're working with noise. So make sure your poly count is up there, so that way it looks as good as you can get it. So that looks like it's the front. And one thing I do is to save time is, as you sort of go throughout, working with noise, you'll kind of play with these sliders here. Every time you click, you can add an extra point. You can change your scale, so when it's really low you get these very small little bumps, and then as we go up in our scale we'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we want something much larger. Now for this, what I've actually done is when you come up with a sort of curve that you like, you can actually save it, and I've already done that. So I'm going to go back to the folder that it's actually in. You can see when I load that, I get the exact setting that I want. I'm going to go ahead and lower my scale a little bit. And maybe something around there. And you can see how noisy that is, and that's pretty, that's pretty crazy. Maybe go up on our scale. Maybe something like that. We hit OK. And this is actually, when you hit OK, this is actually just a preview. It's not actually applied to our mesh right now. So I can actually go back in, I can edit it, I can change it, I can turn the noise off if I wanted to, turn it back on. It doesn't actually apply until we click this Apply to Mesh option. And now it's actually applied to our mesh. But you can see that that's pretty crazy. It's done a lot of damage to our surface. Now if that's what you want, then it works. But I don't want something that much. So that's where our Morph Target comes in. So if we go down to our Morph Target now, this little slider is what we're looking at. And so what will happen is now that if we start to slide this more towards the right, you can see that the noise that we just applied is merging back more towards our Morph Target that we stored. If we go all the ways, we get that original piece. If we go back towards here, we'll start to get that as well. So this is a really good way to kind of preserve your mesh before you start doing your noise on it. And that way then you can control exactly how much. And likewise, if we go the other way, it applies that full noise and goes really crazy. So we want to go to our right, probably something around, I want it to look similar to the other one, so maybe something like 90%. And if you don't like it, you can always undo. So maybe something like that. So now we've got sort of a roughed up surface. And what noise is really good at doing too is cleaning up. If you have sort of noticeable brush strokes and things, it will help kind of get rid of those a little bit, make your thing, it'll crisp up these edges kind of nicely. You can see how the edges here are a little bit more kind of soft, and after we've applied that noise, they're a lot sharper here. There's a really nice contrast between the two surfaces. Now the second way I add noise is through alphas, and there's tons of alphas that you can get online, downloading, just Google searching. One that I like to use is one that's called Marble Damage. There's a download for that, I believe, on Eat3D, I think is the site. It comes with a whole bunch of alphas that you can download that are really good for stonework and things like that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this concrete detail right here. And all of these should be set up to all be drag rectangle brushes. So you can see that when I drag that out, we get that detail there. And if we up our draw size, sort of makes it bigger. But that, that's a little intense. I'm not liking that too much. So maybe, let's see what else we got. See, there's some with like pop marks in there. And this is something that I like to do, is I like to just come in and kind of just, use different ones like this on a very low setting, so a really low intensity, say like a 3 or a 4. What happens if we go up to say like a 30 and we drag that in? It looks terrible. So keep them low. We'll say a 4. And what I like to do is, instead of dragging it out so that it looks like that, I like to just drag out small areas, so like this. See, that's sort of dragging in there. And lower intensity down if we need to. Just keep dragging. And this gives you a little bit more control too, so we could like make up here rougher. Maybe make the circles bigger down here. And using alphas is a really good way to control your sort of noise too. Using the actual noise on the surface is very procedural, whereas this is much more, finite control. So we'll just keep dragging these out. And now you can see how different that surface looks now than when we first started. And there's a lot you can do with alphas. This pack also comes with sort of cracks and things like that. So if you don't want to do this method of doing cracks, you can always get some alphas like this. And the same sort of thing. You can kind of just get, drag recs, kind of position them the way you'd like. And just let go, click, drag, go, and you've got a crack in there. The only thing I don't like about this is that, you know, they're pre-made by somebody else, so the chances of you know, somebody else using them as well, you know, becomes kind of high. And oftentimes, you know, because they're made by a different artist, you can see that the cracks I made don't really look like this crack, so there's kind of an inconsistency there as well. Now, if you're working in, say, a studio environment, then it's pretty, you know, pretty normal that you'll have either yourself or somebody who's making alphas for this kind of thing, so you'll have, you know, access to a nice sort of custom kit of alphas. But you can see how easily you can kind of drop in some that you can play around with. If you can get a lot of interesting stuff, you can kind of mix and match. So you can pull one like that and grab something like this. Kind of. Now it doesn't look too great. I'm just kind of showing the example. You know how you can kind of chain them together. You know, kind of have them play off one another, something like that. But you can kind of see how quick and easy it is to get some noise on that surface, make it look a lot more realistic. So if we do one more, I'm going to pick this one right here. Remember, we always want to start by doing our store empty. I'm actually just going to save this real quick. And you can use, you know, the store MTs for a lot of different things. You can do it before you sculpt, before you add, you know, sort of fine details. That way, just in case something doesn't turn out the way you were hoping, you can just easily undo it. So we've got our MT stored. We can go up to surface, noise. I'm just going to open that one I've already made again. And you see that it's already stored my scale, so I don't have to worry about that. Just hit OK. Apply to mesh. Go down to our Morph Target again. And we're just going to pull that close to 90, just like the other one. You know, it's a different block, so we might go to something like 88 just to make it slightly different. And you can see how it sort of crisped up that edge a little bit that was there. Kind of made everything look a little bit nicer. And we'll grab our brush, which was our concrete 2, I believe. It wasn't that one. It's this one. Our Morph Target is always still there, so we can always pull it down a little bit if we don't. You can see how that one's still there. So if we wanted to go down more, we can always look at what else we can kind of add in here. You know, so layering brushes, or laying alphas and brushes and things together is really important. Just like with normal brushes, you can hold Alt if you wanted to and get that sort of you know, indent instead of it being out. Can get some sort of chips and things kind of thrown in there. To get some pop marks on that surface, things have kind of hit against it. Up to this one, do kind of the same thing. And I've only got spots 1 and 2 loaded, so let me load the rest of those. I keep these all actually loaded into the alpha folder I have by accident, but you can see how many just this one comes with. So look at spots 3. You can see that if you want a whole lot of damage, you can just keep dragging that out and it will place it in there. So that's actually sculpted in now. A little bit excessive for what we want. see how that just adds a little bit to the surface as well. One other thing you could do is if you want sort of these surface variations to be a little bit more pronounced, you can always get your move brush and actually give it a square alpha. Kind of play with the surface a little bit. It's up on camera so I can actually see, so you can kind of press a little bit in. We're going to just sort of get some variation in that face so it's not flat. So you can see now we're sort of getting that like shadow in here where this is kind of pulled out, this is kind of pushed in. So you can see now we have some nice height variations coming in here. Turn on our other one. Go kind of see it in there a little bit. So you can see how this is got some indents and this is kind of in here and more out here. That'll look really good on our normal map and our height map when this bakes out. So same thing, store MT, surface, noise, let's load our noise. 17, that's fine. Let's go back to our morph target. Send this to 90. And we actually didn't apply it to our mesh. Now we can go to our morph target. So you can see how that's actually just a preview before you apply it. So now when we change our morph, you can see that it's actually working. So just that little extra step that you gotta remember in there. And you can see how even with just that noise, how much better it looks than this one right here. Just grab our brush again. Wrong one. Let's see if I can remember which one it was. You get some weird ones like that sometimes. I'm not really sure what that's even supposed to be. I'm actually just gonna fix this real quick because I'm not liking the way that looks. You know, at this stage when you're doing like this, you don't want to go back and do too much to this because it's going to start canceling out the noise and things that you did, but you know, if there's still stuff that's like really bothering you, you can always go back and fix it. But I wouldn't do any huge sweeping changes at this stage. if I actually selected that before I tried to sculpt on it. Again, we can get Remove Brush. You can always move your edges too a little bit if you wanted to. You don't want to pull too hard because then you get this, and you don't want that circle because that doesn't look very real. You can see how it's getting that variation in there now, so it's looking pretty good. And a lot of these details won't eventually bake, you know, like I said earlier, just because of the way the bake works, but it's nice to have them in there. You can always use that on the normal map as a mask for when you're texturing, so that will come in handy as well. We can look at maybe one of our cracks that we've got in that kit. Let's see. Maybe something like that. You know, ones like this don't really fit, just because stone like this wouldn't really break apart like that on a sort of pillar. That'd be more on a floor or something like that, so. You know, with any of these, the intensity is going to determine the depth of it. So the higher the intensity, the deeper it's going to be into your model. Go ahead and noise this one up, store MT. What's nice about this too is it does deform it a little bit, so it does give our brick just a slightly different shape versus the cube that we've been working with. How's it going, Emperor? Doing alright. Hoping my zBrush hangs in there and doesn't crash on me. How you doing on this fine evening? Yeah, that's a good analogy. I tend to work on a little bit of everything, but environments is sort of my go-to, thing that I like to model the most. But I also like to do weapons and things like that as well. I do kind of a combination. I try to stick to the stock ZBrush brushes as much as I can, just because, you know, I like to make do with what the program came with, but every now and then I will download some outside ones if I think it sort of suits a need that I'm looking. Stick to like trim smooth border, you know, polish, brushes like that, so I tend to use more downloaded alphas than anything. Hey Celtic, I'm working on an environment in Unreal Engine 4 right now. If you look at the poly count link that I've got below, you'll actually see what I'm working on fully. Sort of like a cave, temple, fantasy-esque environment. Heavily inspired by stuff like Skyrim and things like that. Yeah, the XMD brushes are great. I have that whole set. The Orbs Crack, which I believe I downloaded from somewhere, is a really important one that I wish they would just bundle with zBrush. But yeah, I tend to try to shy away from a lot of sort of the pre-made brushes just because if I have them, it means somebody else has them too, and I don't want my stuff looking like somebody else's. And looks like I lost my work up at that top. Oh well, not a big deal. Store the Morph Target, add some noise. I'm just gonna load my pre-saved. Apply that, and then just go to our morph and fix it. Yeah, I find myself doing little tricks like that here and there too, if it's a, you know, something that I really like. Like, you'll see that I've got like, well, they're not loaded now, but I downloaded one earlier that I was actually testing out, and it's the zBrush Marble Damage. It's this whole ton of brushes it comes with. There's some pretty good stuff in here, like, let's see, like these line cracks. You can like drag those in, and they look really good. But they're like so specific that I'd be worried that, you know, somebody else using these would be able to tell tell that these were what they were from. That's why I do my cracks the hard way. You know, ones like this is from that same kit, but because I'm using it on such a low sort of low intensity, I'm not really too worried about it being noticeable. For something like this, I tend, something that's not going to be animated, I tend to just export this. I'll do the high poly export, and then I will, you can see I have everything on different subtools right now. What I do is I'll actually go in and I'll dynamesh each subtool down so that it's much lower than what it is now. When they're all lower, I'll combine them all into one, dynamesh them again, and then I'll decimation master them to get the final low poly that I want. Then I export that into Maya and I'll do the UV unwrap and everything in there. Then once all that's done, like the UV unwrap done and all stitched together, then I'll bake it either in X-Normals or Substance Painter. Substance Painter has slowly been beating out X-Normals. Yeah, it's one of the nice bonuses of doing environment art is I don't have to worry about any of it animating or moving. Unfortunately, no. Something I'm trying to get into professionally, but not something I am currently getting paid to do professionally. Yeah, it's not easy, you know, it's a constant building of your portfolio, and it's trying to find a company that will give you the benefit of the doubt. Oh, hey, I've never made a game before. You guys want to hire me? So in the meantime, I'm just working on my portfolio, you know, trying to keep up with all the skills and trends and everything that's going on. Yeah, I mean, you go over to like ArtStation and stuff, and some of the